Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Leadership Series sponsored by Lympha Press. The purpose of this series is to shine a spotlight on people that are making a difference in the worlds of lymphedema, CVI, lipedema, chronic wounds. We're talking to heads of organizations and people who are in research and have clinical practices, just so you can know what resources are out there available to you. And I have had the privilege, it came out as privilege. I have had the privilege of working with Katina Kirby, who is the executive director for LANA, for a few years now. And it's such a pleasure to finally meet you via Zoom and talk to you about what your organization does. Hello, Katina.
Hello there. Thank you so much for asking me to be a part of your show.
Of course, absolutely. And so I want to know, first of all, a lot of people know LANA is LANA, but what's your background and how did you connect the dots to a career with LANA?
Oh, sure. Well, I am an occupational therapist by trade, and I was fortunate enough to work in a facility where my first job, actually my only job because I worked there many years, had a lymphedema clinic under Dr. Joseph Feldman. I was a regular OT and he came asking, would anybody like to be trained, have the specialty training in lymphedema therapy? So I raised my hand, honestly, not knowing what it was. And I said, sure. Didn't know it entailed leaving for 2 weeks, although it was in Florida, so it was wonderful, but, and getting trained. I came back and loved working with my patients, loved the experience that I had at the facility and working with Dr. Feldman. And then my husband got a job in St. Louis. So we moved here. I decided to take a little break from work, but I had been on the Lymphology Association of North America, LANA's board, for a long time. And at that time, Dr. Feldman again was president, and they were looking for someone to do small projects that they said they'd be willing to pay per project. So I took on the project director for them. And then I always say one of my projects was to find an organization to help LANA, an executive director's role. And I found several, reported it back to the board, and they came back to me and asked if I wanted to do it. And at the time, it was a perfect fit for me because I had 2 young boys and I could work as needed, work from home. It was, 10 hours a week at that time. It's since grown to more of a full-time job, and I have a assistant, and we're picking up another worker. So LANA is growing by leaps and bounds.
I love that story, and it's something I would have never known unless we were doing this series. It's so interesting. I talked to Dean Bender, who is with the AVLS, and I asked him about how he was on the search committee for
it
his
happens
role.
that way.
And so that is really interesting, and how wonderful someone who has the hands-on experience in lymphedema therapy to be the executive director of this very important organization. So you said it, and I'm so glad you said it, Lymphology Association of North America. What is the mission of LANA?
Well, the mission is to promote standards for certification. Before all this started, before LANA started, there were many training programs out there. Some would train people over a weekend. Some would train people over a 2-week period. Some would even be 1 day, and everybody would end up with the same certificate, a CLT, Certified Lymphedema Therapist. There were no standards for that. So the almost 25 years ago, or actually a little over 25 years ago, the American Cancer Society, along with the National Lymphedema Network, the NLN, decided there should be some sort of standard. And that's how LANA was created. So,
and it means something, because every therapist, you know, that we interview, and we talk to so many, and we love the relationships that we have with therapists, CLT-LANA, and that means something. For someone who doesn't know, what does that mean?
So what it means is that CLT-LANA has had the training that meets LANA's eligibility requirements, and they have taken the leadership or the professionalism a step forward and taken an international exam to show that they are on the same level as other therapists who have taken training in lymphedema, no matter what training program they went to, as long as it meets the educational standards, they're equivalent to them. You know, many people, you can think about it. I graduate from OT school, but then I have to take my OT boards. A doctor graduates from medical school, then they take their medical school board, their physician's boards. With lymphedema, you graduate from this training, have the certificate, but LANA's the icing on the cake. If, you know, I had my wish, everybody would become LANA certified, because it would make sure that the patients who are receiving the care are receiving it from a qualified individual that took all those steps to become a LANA certified therapist.
And so the people watching this interview are in two groups. Some are patients, some are clinicians. So you've just led me into my next question. What should patients know? And one of the things they should know is to look for that LANA certification.
Yes, definitely. I would look for the CLT-LANA. However, you know, the world is big. The United States is big. There are not a lot of CLT-LANAs out there. We want to get more. So I would recommend you look for a CLT-LANA therapist, but if there are none in your area, look for a therapist that meets the LANA educational requirements. That means they just haven't taken the LANA exam yet, but they've taken the full course and are LANA eligible. Our goal is not to say that you should only see a LANA therapist. Our goal is to make sure there's good treatment out there for patients. So we would love to see everybody take the LANA exam. We want to see them take the LANA exam, but we know sometimes people need a nudge, need to be pushed. They need help from their facility to help pay for the exam, or they're so busy treating patients that they don't have time to take the exam. So first look for the CLT-LANA, and then ask your therapist if they are in fact LANA eligible. Does that answer your question?
That definitely answers the question. And then as a resource, your website offers the ability to connect with a therapist too, doesn't it?
Absolutely. We have Find a Specialist right on our homepage of our website, and where you can look up any, you can look up by your zip code, by your city, even by your country, because now we're heading into all over the world, which is wonderful, to find a therapist, a specialist near you to work with you. The website also has other wonderful items on it for resources for patients. We have a whole patient learning center. We have it's a public learning center. So even if you're not a CLT-LANA, you can go there and you can look for resources there. CLT-LANAs also have the advantage of a membership, or I guess we are all members learning page. Once you become a CLT-LANA, you're part of the LANA membership. So you have your own learning resource page as well. We have support groups listed. We have physicians listings. we're trying to have it as a hub for patients to come to and therapists with links to where they need to go.
A hub with links. And how do people find that website? The URL is
CLT-LANA.org. www.clt-LANA.org. Exactly what you look for in a specialist, those credentials.
fantastic. That is so good. So we've definitely answered the question, what do patients need to know about LANA?
Mm-hmm.
What about for therapists or clinicians? How does LANA serve them? Now, I already know the answer to some of this because you are my go-to person whenever Lympha Press has an educational webinar or we're doing a roundtable discussion and we want people to know about it. We definitely are proud supporters of your organization. And one of the benefits we get is the ability to let people know about events that we have coming up. But for someone who doesn't have an intimate personal knowledge of the benefits of LANA, talk to the clinicians out there.
Well, first of all, thank you for your sponsorship from Lympha Press all these years. We do have, for the clinicians or the specialists, we have videos from our different sponsors, whether they can be educational videos, they can be a product video. They're all located under that members learning page. We also have PDFs of good articles to read. We have books to read. Some of the articles and the videos have continuing education associated with them. For the LANA specialist, you can get up to 10 continuing education credits towards your LANA recertification by reading an article or watching a video and answering a quiz, answering some questions. We have a calendar of events on our website for specialists to look at what's up and coming. For instance, if Lympha Press has an educational program coming up, it will be listed in our calendar, and the clinician can click on it, find out all the details, and even register for it because it links to the registration. Like I said, it's a one-stop shop for clinicians. Patients have similar, there are videos on our website, there's PDFs on our websites, there are books, they're just not associated with continuing education on the public side.
That's wonderful. So one of my questions I love to ask is, can you think of a success story where your work or your involvement with LANA has really made a difference in someone's life or in, this realm of study? What comes to mind as a success story for you, Katina?
So LANA, I don't work with patients directly.
Do you miss that?
I do. We do receive many phone calls from patients asking advice or directions that we could lead them to a specialist. I've actually had some family members call and they start to cry when I explain to them, where to go, where to look for, that they find somebody in their area. They had no idea there was somebody so close to them that could treat their family member or their own lymphedema. That's very heartwarming. We've also, what's been interesting, we're receiving more and more emails and phone calls regarding for hiring a specialist. They want to make sure that the therapist has an accredited certificate. So I have to often have to verify people's certificates, and often I get a training certificate, not a LANA certificate, and I get to educate the facility of what the difference is. and what to look for when hiring a specialist. So I feel like I'm making a little bit of a difference in educating patients or family members, or educating facilities when they call and they're checking up on who they're hiring. Which,
That
by the
is,
way, we have job postings on our website too for facilities that are looking for therapists that treat lymphedema.
I think one big takeaway from this interview is your traffic on your website should spike, because I didn't even realize, sometimes I get so busy just sending out information, I forget to check where it lands. And you've got a lot there. You've got riches for people to
We have a
access
lot to
on your
offer.
website. That's wonderful. So what's on your wish list for the future?
Well, my own personal wish list is that a cure for lymphedema, of course. I would love to be out of a job. That there'd be a magical pill or surgery and there'd be no more. But reality is that's a long time away. So my wish is that people are educated more on lymphedema, that people come to our website, physicians, residents, fellows, and learn about lymphedema, read some of the articles that we have, so that we don't hear from patients, my doctor doesn't believe in lymphedema, or my doctor never said this was lymphedema. So my wish is to get the education out there, people to know that what lymphedema is and where to find the help.
It must be so gratifying too to see the advances that have been made in the field. When I was doing one of the interviews, someone said, back in the early 2000s, people didn't even know how to spell lymphedema, let alone diagnose it. So we've come a long way.
I
good.
kind of have a funny story, if you allow me.
I want funny stories. Go for it.
Back in the 2000s, I'm actually, I forgot to mention, I'm a CLT-LANA myself. I took the exam, one of the first exams, in 2001. I was married, and in 96, so I was married, and my husband was going through his training. He's a physician, and I was explaining to him what lymphedema was, and he was actually with a breast surgeon, and he was telling the breast surgeon what I do and who I treat. And the breast surgeon said at that time, so it would have been around 2000, there's no such thing as lymphedema. And my husband said, how could you say this? She's got a waiting list that's 3 months long to see her. No, there's no such thing. They went in to see their very next patient. The patient had a swollen arm and swollen chest wall. And my husband said, well, I don't understand. That's lymphedema. No, that's just post-surgical swelling. And my husband said, but you did the surgery 4 years ago. So we had some very interesting conversations when I was starting out with my training and my caseload, and him being, doing what he does. And it was very interesting. And now, of course, physicians do know what lymphedema is. They're working towards that. So anyway, that's my funny story.
That story. And I have to say, okay, so there was the hurdle in the medical community. Imagine on the behalf of patients who knew something is wrong here. Can I please get diagnosed? Can I please get some help? So I almost feel too that lipedema is surmounting that same hurdle, that lymphedema faced years ago.
Absolutely.
And this sense of there's no such thing, the stigma and the shame attached to a condition that these primarily women have no control over, getting that awareness out there. I digress, but I see a similar progression of
very true. Very true.
So our interview is coming to a close, what's the one takeaway you'd love to leave our audience with?
The one takeaway is to visit our website, see what we have to offer, get educated, and I'm always available. Please email me. My email is on the website. I get the LANA contact forms through the website, or email me directly at admin@clt-lana.org.
And I use that email address all the time. And you are
That's right.
so responsive and such a pleasure to work with. And it's so great to know the person who is the executive director for such an important organization. Thank you for all that you do and all that LANA does to serve lymphedema patients and the clinical community. Thanks for being here, Katina.
Thank you. And thank you for all that you do. You're wonderful.
Oh, thank you. It's my pleasure and it's a joy. And thank you for tuning in to this edition of the Leadership Series. If you know someone who deserves to be in the spotlight and you want to hear their story, how they ended up in their position to help patients and serve the clinician community, send me their information